Hi, this is needlepointers.com. Placemats are super easy to make and can be made very quickly. I have been working on these placemats and I made up about 8 of them so far, and I'm making them for our Quilt Guild, who is doing a charity project where these placemats will be donated to Meals on Wheels, and these will be given to their clients so they can eat their dinners or the meals that they deliver on these placemats. These placemats are two-sided, so you can put different fabric on the front and the back, and they could be used either way. I've made a couple different varieties here. These have the corners cut off, and I think that makes them more decorative. So that's one with fishes, and if you can see, it has kind of a wavy stitch around the edge and around the middle, and I put another line of wavy stitches down the middle also. This one is the same size, and it's got the shells on the front and a pretty pattern on the back. And this one I just went around with straight lines all the way around at equal distances coming in each level and going around. You can do as much quilting on them as you want, or you can just do simple quilting. You'll see a couple of those too in here. So now these two, I did not cut off the corners, so they're going to be the square ones. And the one thing you have to watch out for, which I didn't watch out for when I was actually cutting out these fabrics, was if the fabrics are directional, you will want to make sure that you're holding your fabric in the correct direction and the longer side, so that the fabric is going across on the direction of the longer side, so that way you get these straight, because this one's kind of, I guess it's kind of crooked because all the fish are swimming up and back. This one has the stars on the back, and this one I just sewed straight lines at equal distances, and I left a bigger gap in the middle. I just did equal numbers, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and then I left the middle blank. This one's similar. I have the ship in the bottles kind of fat fabric on the front and the striped fabric on the back. And instead of doing the lines up and down this time, I did them across, and I did the same sort of thing. Now these were ones that I noticed that I cut the fabric the wrong direction, so I ended up cutting off a little bit more to try to make them be the correct direction. I wasn't quite successful. Probably should have cut more off the top here, but it will still work as a placemat. And this one is obviously lighthouses, and it has this fabric that kind of looks like water on the back. And I just did a simple cross, X across for the quilting. All of these I quilted with variegated thread, which is kind of cool because it just changes color every few inches, and then it gives it a little bit more different look to it, so it's not just standard one whole color of thread, but you can use any color thread or that you would like that goes with your fabrics. Here's another one with some fun walruses and fish and octopus on it, and the back it has this fun fabric that's the lobsters. This one, instead of going up and down or straight across that way, I did more of an X on the side, sideways X, and that's enough to hold it together. And one last one with fun jellyfish on it. So keep that in mind when you're cutting your fabric, if it's directional, to make sure you're cutting it in the right direction. For these placemats, they work great with a fat quarter of fabric. So find 2 fat quarters that you really like, and you can make a fun placemat. You could use the same pattern on both sides also if you'd like to. But it's fun to put 2 different fabrics on so that they're reversible and you can get different looks. So to start, to make one placemat, you will need to cut 2 pieces of fabric in the size of 15 inches by 18 inches. So 15 by 18. For this one, I've cut out enough to make 2 placemats. So I have 2 pieces of this fabric and 2 pieces of this fun bee fabric. I just think these are such cute, happy bees. The other thing you need is one piece for each placemat. You'll need 1 piece of fusible fleece, and that is cut 14 inches by 17 inches. Now, if you don't have fusible fleece, don't worry, because you can still make these. All those other ones I made with just regular cotton batting that I had around. So what I did instead was I took my spray adhesive and I sprayed the batting one side, and then I fused it to one of the pieces of fabric. And that does the same thing as the fusible fleece and holding it together. If you'd like to make one with the cut corners off, like this one, I'm going to show you how to do that. First, line up your fabrics on top of each other for the placemat that you would like to cut. If you're making more than one placemat, you can put more layers. It doesn't hurt. You can usually cut through several layers at a time. This is my 6-inch square ruler, and it has on here 45-degree lines, which is showing a 45-degree angle. So I find that 45-degree angle and the 2 lines that go along with it, and I line up the 45 in the corner, and then I line up the lines along each side of the fabric. Take your cutter and just slice off the corner. So you take the corner off, and I mean, those you could save them if you want to make half square triangles. Probably would make nice half square triangles. Or you could use them as scraps in a different project. So cut off all 4 corners in the same manner. And then we'll be ready to go to the ironing board. Okay, so at your ironing board, the first step is to iron both pieces of your fabric flat. Next, figure out which side is going to be your back side of, even though they're reversible, so either side works. It doesn't really matter. And then take your fusible fleece and center it approximately on your fabric piece, and then fuse the fleece using your iron per the instructions on the fusible fleece. The next step is to layer your fabrics together, right sides together. Next, we will sew around the outside edge all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and leaving about a 2 to 3 inch opening on one end. We will sew it closed when we do top stitching afterwards. So let's go over to the sewing machine. Okay, so now I'm at my sewing machine. I have my sewing machine set to its normal straight stitch. I have on the 1/4 inch foot so that I can measure my 1/4 inch properly. And I am starting like 3/4 of the way down one of the short sides. Remember to back tack the beginning and the end. And this is my square one, so I just have 4 corners to go around. So once I get to the first corner, I can just turn it and continue on. I've come around the last side, and here's where I started. So I'm going to leave a 2 to 3 inch gap there and back tack. The gap will be used when we turn the placemat to the right side. So as you can see, there's the other side with the fusible fleece stuck to it. Next, I'm starting with the one that has the cut off corners, and I want to show you one other thing that's a nice feature of this 1/4 inch foot. So again, I'm going to start on the side and start stitching, and don't forget to back tack. Now this 1/4 inch foot has these little notches on the side, and these notches are showing you when you're 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. So as I come to the edge, the corner, when I see that the corner is by this first edge here, that means I'm a 1/4 inch from the edge. And when I swivel, it's perfectly in the right spot. I'm just finishing up back tacking on the last side. So I'm at my ironing board now, and I forgot one step is to actually clip the corners, so this way you can get some nice points when you turn the placemat to the right side. Okay, once you have the corners clipped, start to turn your placemat. I like to pop in the corner and then move it towards the opening. And these are the corners on the opposite side of the opening. And then pop that. Reach inside and pull them through. Once you have it mostly turned, then you want to poke out the corners, and I'm using this stick that I have. It's a turning stick, and use it to point into each corner to push the corner out. Then I usually run it along the seam too, to make sure that the seam is all pressed out. Next, we need to press it nicely flat, and also on this side you will want to flip in the seam allowance on both edges of the fabric and press it nicely so it's nice and even, sort of like that. We will close that by top stitching around. So no hand sewing required. So I'm going to nicely press, get a nice crisp edge all the way around. We have the same turning process for the one with the corners cut off. So now I have the placemats all nicely pressed, and I flipped in the edges of the open edge and tucked in any little strings or cut them off. The next step is to top stitch around the edge of the whole placemat. So I usually start on the side where the opening is, so I can make sure I get that nicely closed. And don't forget to back stitch and top stitch all the way around close to the edge. Okay, I top stitched around each of the placemats. This is the square one and also the one with the corners cut off. The next step is to put some quilting on the top of your placemat. For this, I am going to use my #1 foot, which is my standard foot, and I have this little bar, and this bar is handy for measuring distances. So I can sew a line and have this bar lined up with another line of stitches, so that way they're parallel to each other. And I use this bar for the straight lines, doing all the straight lines, and also when I did the straight lines that kind of outlined around this one. So I'll show you both. And you can set this bar at any width that you would like. Don't forget to back tack on the front and the end. As you can see, I'm running the guide along the top stitches. So that's the first line. Now I'm going to sew another line, and I'm going to run this guide along my previous stitching. So continue on running lines across. What I suggest though is, unless you've measured and you know exactly how wide you want each of your spacers, I usually run 2 or 3 going one direction from one side, measuring from one side of the placemat, and then I will start on the other side and start measuring that way, and then that leaves you the gap in the middle. So I'll be back after I've done the quilting on this. So here's the quilting on the top of the square plate or rectangular placemat. For this placemat, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing, except I'm going to do straight lines across. So I went to put my lines straight across long ways on this one. So I still want to use my bar here, but because the corner's cut off, I have to estimate where it is. So I'm lining it up and then backing up to the edge. So then I'll start from here and go on down. So again, I will continue with lining the bar up here with the previous line and sewing across. This one, I probably will do 2 lines and then do the 2 lines going this way, and then see where I am in the middle, if I want to put another line in the middle or not. So here are 2 completed placemats. You can see they're double-sided. So pick some fun fabrics and make some placemats for yourself. If you'd like to see a photo tutorial of this project, please click the iCard or the link in the description of the video. We will also have pictures of all the other placemats that I made and descriptions of the different quilting methods that I use for each one. Near the bottom of that page will also be some links to purchase supplies for this project. Please remember that by purchasing supplies through our links, we receive a small commission, and you help us to keep making more videos by making purchases through those links. I hope you enjoyed this project and make a whole bunch of placemats for yourself and friends. These will make great gifts for the holidays. By picking out some fun fabrics that coordinate with the gift receiver's tastes or style, you can make them a quick and easy gift. Please share our projects on Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, visit our website, needlepointers.com, for lots of other sewing tutorials.